Hello everyone, my name is Phil. I'm working on something called oalo.ai, and it is a collaborative surface for technical and non-technical people and their AI agents and routines. So I just wanted to show off one of our features we have in here that we call loops. I think it's pretty cool to give you an idea of why this platform might give you an advantage over something like Newly.app or like Base 44 or like Lovable or whatever, the other app builders are. I mean, this is really for building a distributed system and for implementing proper industry standards with regard to like software development. So like there's dev prod environments, there's testing built in, all that. But today, let's just go over this kind of toy example to kind of show you what loops do, because I think it's pretty cool. So you'll see in here, I have these two kind of silly apps, demonstration apps that are both web apps. We support mobile as well. And I'll get more into like the different scaffolds and things in another video. But this is just a place where you can create blog posts and share them to a feed. And then in here we have this hypothetical dashboard where maybe somebody in your team would want to come in and review posts, and if they're inappropriate, delete them, right? And so with workflows and loops therein, you can set up AI-driven computation chains or loops or graphs that, in this case, we'll be using it to kind of like synthesize, augment data in the platform and present it in the apps. But you could use it, you could chain it together to actually develop your platform and like write the code with steps to go through and like ensure it's doing it correctly, things that like make your code better, like ponytail and stuff like that. But in this case, we're going to be using it to demonstrate something you can fire off with an event or like a database trigger or like on a routine, a cron job or manually. So this is kind of a silly example. Don't pay attention to the example. Just pay attention to like hopefully how you could use it to automate some facet of your business or app. So the first node here is an agent node, and so something to keep in mind here is there's like varying degrees of procedural implementation versus like AI decision making, and the boundaries between those are very important. The input and output. So what I mean here, like for example, this agent step here, it just says gather all the posts that get displayed in my front end app and then do something with them. And to do something with them is the graph is context aware. So it knows I've hooked up the agent node to the function node. So it knows the function node expects a certain input, and that shows up here in the output. And instead of sending it all in an array, I've elected to send them, go through the rest of this flow once per extracted item, right? So that's kind of what this is. And you can do it in a single call. This is just saying for each text, call the next thing, which is a function, right? And here's the output. I want the ID from the blog post, and then I want the text body from the blog post. And going into the function, you can see it understands the input and the output because this is a tool I created. And a tool is something that is not just available in the workflow, but available to the agent anywhere in your Oalo instance. So there are lighter forms of automation that can end up calling the tool. The tool can just be called interacting with your agent, your cross-app agent at any time. And they're created in here in the tool catalog. These are actual, this is actual code, and you can create it just with natural language, saying, hey, here's what I need to, what input, what output, and it will create one of these. Like, for example, there's like a convert kilograms to pounds. There's like a calculate macros, stuff like that. Obviously, this would be great for fitness trainers who maybe want to make like a workout of the day, but also infuse user data into it. Like maybe this user just got an injury with your knee, so then you need to sculpt a workout of the day around all this dynamic information. The loops are fantastic for this. And by the way, if you don't like the code that the LLM generated, you're more of a technical person, everything in here is backed by Git. So you can always change all that. Like even all the apps, every every prompt is committed to Git, so you can always go backwards. So that Git flow is kind of built in. But back in the loop, so basically we've used the tool we made to do a procedural, so there's no deterministic stuff going on, no hallucination. It will always count the words that come in. And then here we have a deterministic procedural branch. Because our output is a function, we can decide exactly what we want to do based on the output. If the output was just a text or like an LLM output, then we would need another interpretive LLM to come in and decide what to do after that. And that works great too. But here, since it is an integer, we're just going to set these output rules. So if it's a count greater than 40, we'll go to this step. If it's less than or equal to 40, we'll go to this step. And by the way, the inputs and the outputs are arrays. So you can have any number of inputs, any number of outputs. You can loop back in on part of the graph if you need to like refine information in passes. And just, ensure for guardrails and things like that. And so here we're going to come out into agent nodes, and we'll just say, hey, since it's over 40, find the object with this ID and mark it large. And this one will be, if it's under or equal to 40, mark it small. And this is silly, right? Because you would normally just make a tool for this. Since it's a procedural, you just go and say, hey, get the object for the CD out of the database and update it. But I just wanted to display that the agent has enough context and awareness of everything going on in your data and your platform. It can do this stuff if you just tell it. And you'll see, you see the cost up here, right? I've been playing around with this, just different graphs and things like that, but I've been using Opus for all my agent calls. That's kind of silly. For this kind of a thing, Haiku is fantastic and much cheaper. So before I forget, I'm just going to go through and change my agent calls to Haiku. Depending on the level of reasoning, you might want to use Opus, but it's more expensive, right? And like I said, in the future, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but in the future, we are going to be putting some racks together and running some open source, GLM and stuff like that to bring the cost down even more for you guys. We just haven't been able to do that yet. It's kind of a next step. It's kind of coming up soon. So, but you do have, controls on your spending here. So it's never gonna run away from you. You're never gonna rack up a huge amount of spending that you're not prepared for. And we can kind of go into that more later. So if I just kind of run the loop, you'll see that as it goes, it tracks everything the agent is doing, all the function calls, everything, and it creates an audit trail that I'll show you later. It goes into the history tab on the previous screen. So you can always see, how much you're spending and for what exactly, and if anything went wrong, exactly where. So there's always an audit trail, and you can use that to kind of feed back into the process and refine it, which is really helpful. And obviously the budgeting controls are essential. Okay, so that one finished. So here in history, you'll see the various runs, I've kind of been playing with. And if you click into one, you see each step, each node that ran, how it ran, what the agent was doing, what its output was, what tools it called, how much it cost per step. And, we're using tokens, so there is a cost, but this is always going to be cheaper than hiring somebody. So guys, I realized I totally forgot to show you the result of the workflow. So I just went ahead and kind of reset things so I can run it again and show that to you. So you'll see in here in these toy apps, there's no size indication, right, on either one, right? So if I go in, see, it would show up here. So when I go in, I'm going to run the loop again. Let me run this again. All right. So let's just let this complete. The idea here is I just want to show you that there's, context awareness in the platform across all your apps, right? So your data is truly all synced together. And you don't have to use our sync engine, although the scaffolds come with it, the front end scaffolds, and there's the sync servers baked in. You can also make your own servers and stuff in here. You can bring in your own code. You can kind of do whatever you want. So now that that's finished, let's open these up, and you'll see here the size chips are there, right? Cool. So I just wanted to show you that it does have an effect. And I say, when I was talking about scaffolds here, there are a number of different options to get code in and out of Oalo. There's no lock-in. Like I showed you previously, there's the Git flow. You can pull, make changes, push. But the idea is just that it's a collaborative surface, so the non-technical people can have a meaningful impact on the product and the CI/CD and just the processes in general. But here, so we have some templates for servers, for mobile, and for web. Those are all sync aware. But like I said, you don't have to use that. This guy's kind of the limit. And I'll be going over these other nodes. I mean, the other really interesting one is the chatbot, which has kind of the widgets you might expect built in inline chat, kind of like what Chatbase does, but it also has, the backend side and the computation that can be run within the chat that can then augment the data here in a similar fashion to the loops, which I think is pretty powerful. And you'll see this is all running in dev. So you set these processes up in dev, you verify them, you test them. We'll go over testing in another video, but non-technical people can set all this up. They can click through the app to record tests, and then those run as your integration tests. And they are integration tests, right? Because your platform exists in here, through all your components. And so that's pretty sweet to be able to get that out for free. And we'll kind of go into why that works, what we recommend doing, like the sync infrastructure, what you get out of the sync infrastructure for free, which is like offline mode, which is like great performance in bad networks and stuff like that. And almost all of our clients right now are using that to great effect, especially the fitness people. That comes in handy, with gym connectivity and stuff like that. But anyway, so that's kind of workflows. I think there was some other stuff I wanted to mention. I'm just kind of drawing a blank, but I just wanted to introduce the concept. Again, it's a silly toy example, but hopefully you can extrapolate, how you might use these tools to automate parts of your business or parts of your app. So thank you for watching.